Welcome back to the Manor, Entropians. Julian McBain here, and today we're going to be doing a little migration and a little discussion. So I got a request from a viewer to review Longblades 101. And so while I do my migration hunt today, we're going to talk about it. We're going to redo the introduction to Longblades, because I know there aren't a lot of people who do melee when compared to the number of people who choose rifles, especially laser rifles. And so there's kind of an obscurity to how you would get started in Longblades and how you would level it up, especially in the beginning. I mean, once you reach the R Matrix stage, it's pretty straightforward, but getting there can be a bit difficult, especially if you're playing non-depot. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of review how to get to where you're using the R Matrix swords, and what you'd be looking for in a weapon, when to start looking at doing amps and things like that. So when you get started with Longblades, like any other weapon in the game, you're going to start with the TT. And so the TT sword is 15 ped, and it looks just like the R Matrix swords. It looks just like these. But it's the Casterian, I think it's called a Casterian blade. If I had been smart, I would have picked one up. I had just been at a trade terminal earlier, just to display it for you. Its efficiency is about 57%, and so you're going to use that sword for quite a while, and it's limited, of course. So what you're going to do is you're going to drop the used blade in the TT along with any shrapnel you get. Oops, no, there we go. And then you're going to buy another TT sword, and you're going to go and do it again, rinse, repeat. Alternatively, if you depot, or if you have patience, because this is the harder way to do it, you'll retain all your shrapnel and put it in storage. And honestly, this is the smart way to do it, especially if you're playing non-depot, but be aware it's going to take you a lot longer. So, what you can do, and this will help you in the long run, especially if you're non-TT, if you're non-depot. It'll make things faster if you depot as well, but if you're non-depot, what this will do is this will help you to manage your resources more efficiently. What you do is you take your shrapnel and you throw it in storage, and you use the money you gain from trading, sweating, taxi service, however you're doing your non-depot money earning, right? And then you use that to buy your TT swords. And then once you reach the level where you're starting to use the R Matrix, and I'm going to get into that here shortly, you convert all that shrapnel into ammo, and now you've got a shitload of ammo to work with. See how that works? Now, there are a number of unlimited swords. I'm going to review two of them, the Laconian sword and the Katsuichi Honor, and explain the ins and outs of these unlimited swords and why they could be good and why they could be bad. So let's start with the Laconian sword. So the Laconian sword is an 8-ped unlimited sword. It has an efficiency of 54.9%, compared to the 56-ish. It's like 56.5 to 57% of the Casterian blade. It's a little bit less efficient. Now, here's the crux of it. So the Casterian end blade does, I think it's 10 damage. This one does, or no, I'm sorry, it does 15 damage. This one does 4 to 8. The difference is this has twice the attacks per minute. And so, and it has good durability, which is unusual for an unlimited sword. So the benefits to the Laconian sword are, one, you can tier it up. I actually did spend the resources to tier it up to level 1 for when I do low-level mob hunts. That way I can continue to work on my Longblade even when I'm, short on cash for the month. So you can put enhancers in there. And I have heard that there is wisdom in not putting enhancers in weapons until you get toward the end of, you know, until you hit level 100. To a certain extent, I can see where they're coming from, but I haven't really used enhancers, so I don't have a good answer on whether or not it would be a good idea or not. You know, it's always when I start shooting that the respawns always pop up right in front of my face. I mean, seriously. I've never bought enhancers. It is something that I need to look at starting to do, but because I'm using limited swords right now, it's really not worth it. So anyway, the biggest benefit is that you tier it up, you can throw enhancers on it, and you can throw enhancers on a limited weapon as well, but then you have to swap them out and do all the extra work with that. Whoops, I wasn't looking at market value. Wow, that's like way gone up. The downside to it is from an efficiency standpoint, the Laconian sword is a little less efficient. You're going to spend a little bit more ped using it overall, even though each individual hunt or each individual use of the weapon is going to cost you a little less. But because you're swinging it more often, it's going to be used a little faster, if that makes any sense at all. Now, for the Katsuichi blade, here's the benefit and the drawback to the Katsuichi blade. The benefit to the Katsuichi blade is that you can do up to maximum damage right from the get-go, which is unusual for any weapon. Usually there's a penalty if you're below a certain level, but the learning periods are never, and you're always at 100% recommended profession. Now this is a little disingenuous, and the efficiency is a little disingenuous as well. The problem with the Katsuichi series in all unlimited weapons, but the problem with the Katsuichi series is twofold. One, like most UL weapons, it's optimized at level 100. Okay? It's optimized at profession level 100. So what that means is you're not going to be doing the most efficient amount of damage until you reach level 100. And it's not as powerful as some of the limited swords you can get at that level. So right now I'm level 36. As you can see, that the damage interval max for low end of the band is 28. Currently I can only do 18.7. Or I can go as low as 18.7. Anything below 28, you lose efficiency, because you're not doing as much damage as you could be. My hit ability is lower than it could be. My critical hit ability is lower than it could be. So, I mean, as you can see, I wouldn't be as efficient as its maximum efficiency. Now, that being said, at peak efficiency, it's 65.8% efficient, which is good. It's better than the swords I'm using now. So if I click my little pin here, oh boy, and I view my R matrix, this is 64.6 with an enhancer. Not an enhancer, an amp. 64.6% with an amplifier. If you look at one that doesn't have an amp on it, which I'm going to do here shortly, I just want to kill the Longtooth and start attacking the pterodactyl over here. %. So it's like, wow, that's actually more efficient than I thought it was. Oh, that's right, because the R matrix get more efficient as you go up. So this without an amp is more efficient than this with an amp, once you reach that maximum level, or that level 100 point. So that's something to keep in mind. Once you hit level 100, you're going to be hunting bigger things. This won't have the damage output, but the benefit to it is if you're someone like me who can't always hunt at level because of money, then it means you can maximize the efficiency of your hunts with what you've got. So, okay. The other benefit to the Katsuichi series is it's a sword that a low-level person can use to hunt things that are technically out of their league. Like last year when I did Migration, the level 3 Longtooth were above, or actually no, they were right where I could be, but I didn't know it because I've been using the Laconian sword all that time. And so, in order to overcome that deficiency, what I did was I used the Katsuichi. And actually, to the credit of the Katsuichi, I was able to maintain my efficiency for the most part. I was actually able to maintain my efficiency for the most part. So what ended up happening is I ended up breaking even for a large chunk of my first migration. I mean, I lost money on the repair bill for armor, but when it came to weapon decay versus drops, it was roughly even. And so that would be no different than ammo burn, right? So overall, I did okay, even though it was wicked inefficient comparatively speaking. Now, let's talk about ammo burner swords. And the reason I call them ammo burner swords, even though there's probably a better term for them that they're limited, is because they use ammo, which for me, as a person who actually uses swords, kind of was unintuitive. And so I resisted the use of the R-Matrix series swords for a long time. Like, it didn't make sense to me, which after reviewing the way the weapons theoretically work in-game, or more accurately in the lore, it made a little more sense. But from the standpoint of someone who actually fences, right, I use swords all the time, which is an unusual thing to say in 2019. It was so counterintuitive, I refused to use these for quite some time. And I shouldn't have, because I would be a lot further now had I not done that. So, ammo burner swords. The R-Matrix series is the one that I use. To my knowledge, it's the only real ammo burner series out there. ISIS, to my knowledge, does not put out an ammo burner series. And for those viewers who are new to Entropia Universe, the ISIS series of weapons in this game came out before those assholes in the Caliphate existed. And that's about as political as I'll ever get on here. So, the R-Matrix series works just like the laser rifles. It works just like the laser rifles. The higher the number, like this is an LB30, the more damage the weapon does, the more ammo it uses, the more efficient it is. Now, there is a difference between the rifle and the sword. The swords will always A, do more damage, B, use more ammo. I'm going to repeat that. They'll always do more damage and they'll always use more ammo. So when you're planning out how you're going to use your PED for the month, as you're planning out how you're going to build your avatar, keep that in mind. And then you just follow the R-Matrix series up the chain. And it goes to like, I think the AR 100 is the highest. I could be wrong about that. But well, no, shit. That figures. That's been happening a lot. In fact, yesterday I pulled a mob and someone else shot it away from me and I lost credit for it. And then he asked me not to shoot his mob, which was really irritating. So, anyway, I'm gonna stop bitching now. Ah, crap, where was I? R-Matrix series, gaining levels. Oh, so you're going to travel up the R-Matrix series of swords. And that's what's going to take you to level 100. And roughly speaking, the level number on the sword is somewhere close to where you'd be. Like, I think I'm level 35 32, level 36 swordman hit, level 33 swordman damage. So your damage is not going to move as fast as your hit. And what you're going to do is you're going to use whichever sword is kind of in that area. You're going to be about 5 to 10 levels behind. Like, I'm using an LB30, and I'm only at 74% skill progress in it. And the only reason I'm using the LB30 instead of the LB25 right now is because with markup, it's actually cheaper for me to use the LB30, even with the inefficiencies, than it is for me to use the LB25. And I did some experimenting and I did the math on it, because currently the LB25 is going for almost 130% markup, whereas this is going for 109. So you're going to start with the LB10 and use this progress box, which is I believe it's the area, it's the arrow here, to keep track of your stuff. I am dead serious. Use the progress box, because what this is going to do is it's going to help you to determine when it is you need to go up to the next level. And for me, my recommendation in general is when your progress with that weapon is at 80%, unless you have a wide price gap on on the level of sword you're technically at, like I am at right now, that's when you move on to the next weapon. When your progress in that weapon's at 80%, move on to that weapon. Because what you're going to lose in raw pet efficiency is all going to get dumped into skills. You're not really losing that money, it's being invested into your avatar, into the skills the avatar gains. And so it makes a huge difference. And then for amplifiers, I've got an amplifier 4 and I've got an amplifier 1. I am still using the amplifier 1, and the big reason for that is that from a pet efficiency standpoint, it's actually more efficient for me at my current level. I am not ready for a trauma amplifier 4. I burn through it too quickly. And it might just be that that's the cost of the amplifier, which means that I just don't have the pet to support it. But it does mean that I want to make sure I am being as efficient as possible. And currently the 4 is not efficient enough for me for it to work. I mean, it's got 180 ped total TT value. So I do recommend using amps. You can use the Trauma Amplifier 1 with any melee weapon, because it only does 4 damage additional. It does make a difference. Trust me when I say in the long run, especially for something like Migration or if you're doing Mayhem, having that makes a difference. It makes a difference in time, it makes a difference in efficiency. So, amp up. Just like you would with a gun. Amp up. It is worth it. Come on. There we go. So there you have it. You're going to use the R Matrix swords until you reach level 100 or beyond. And then you can go looking for one of the more epic weapons that are out there. There are a few out there. Some are limited, some are not. I can't speak to their efficiency because I'm not high enough level to use them efficiently. And I won't use a weapon I can't use efficiently beyond a certain extent. So, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Oh, benefits to using melee weapons. And I know I've been through this a few times, but I'm going to go through it again for those who are new to the channel. The biggest benefits to using melee weapons over ranged. There are certain stats that are going to grow faster. For example, the big ones, the most important ones that grow the fastest, your health will go up faster. As you can see, I'm at level 130, or my health is at 133 hit points. And that makes a difference. It really does. Defense. Evade is going to skyrocket because you're stuck in more, right? You don't get the benefit of the time backing up. Now that being said, you want to spend time doing ranged attacks against ranged mobs. Or doing melee attacks against ranged mobs, like Bristle Hogs. Bristle Hogs do ranged attacks no matter what. Those improve your dodge. Dusters do the same thing on Cyrene, which is where I spend a lot of my time. If you're hunting robots here on Calypso, like here in Orthos, there are a bunch of robots here. They do ranged when you're at range, but they switch to melee when you're in melee. So if you're going to level your dodge that way, you have to use a rifle. No choice in the matter. So just be cognizant of what kind of damage they do. If their damage is classified as at range, even if you're at point blank range, it's going to affect your dodge, not your evade. The third one that it affects is strength. And here's the big reason that strength is important. See this right here? The amount of weight I can carry is higher than it would be if I was a rifleman of the same level. By a lot. In fact, so... lost my train of thought there. But anyway, yeah. So the carry capacity you have goes up a lot when you're a melee player. Because your strength is higher. For some reason, the stamina doesn't. And I haven't figured out why. Like, the only way I was able to raise my stamina was by using stamina tokens, and I've only found one quest where you get stamina tokens. So this one's confusing. I would love to learn how to raise my stamina more, because I have the feeling that it makes it so that you are less likely to take damage. It probably also helps your hit points overall. There are other skills that are involved there, but those are the big ones. Those are the most visible. You know, combat reflexes go up and all of that other stuff. Courage goes up, which affects your hit points, but those three are the biggest ones. Now, here are the disadvantages. And there are disadvantages. Number one, you're going to take more damage. And what that means is if you're wearing armor, your armor is going to take more damage, which costs you more ped. And that's just a given. I mean, when you're towing it with your enemy, you're going to get hit, and when you get hit, your armor's going to decay. That's just common sense. And so that's one important factor to keep in mind. Another important factor to keep in mind that there are mobs that are not optimized for melee combat. Which means you're going to take damage on your way to get to them. And this is especially important if you're fighting robots. Robots come with a lot of extra things involved when you fight them, but the biggest thing you have to worry about is the fact that they are ranged. Which means that if you get stuck in and you're towing it with a robot, and you have not used a rifle to pull it out of the group, you are going to pull more robots. They are going to gang up on you, which means you're taking even more damage than you otherwise would. Now, if you're way over level, like if I were to put on my regular street clothes, take off the armor, and go into Orthos and just stand there and melee robots, I'm going to pull a whole bunch of robots. I can let my skills kind of prevent me from dying, which, because my dodge isn't great, it wouldn't do... I would take damage. But what it would do is it would prevent me from losing that armor decay. That being said, if I went in there with armor on, it would take far more decay than I normally would. So that's a big downside to being melee, is you're going to go through more decay, you're going to spend more money. That's just a given. The other downside is until you reach the R Matrix phase, you are not using ammo. And why that's important is when you don't use ammo, the weapons decay faster. Does it end up coming out in the wash? Yeah, for the most part. For the most part, it ends up coming out in the wash. But here's the crux of it. When you convert shrapnel, you have a 101% conversion rate. Right? Oh, crap, that's not what I meant to do. Oh well. You have a 101% conversion rate. So you get 100 shrapnel, it converts to 101 universal ammo. This is important. I'm just going to have to keep a close eye on this. Come on. 1. And dead. Okay, so unequip. Detach. Attach. Attach. Active set 1. Drop her on. And I'm back. Okay, so here's what happened, and this is the first time I've ever put out a video with any sort of editing. I switched my weapons around, and for some reason OBS likes to sometimes cut out when I use my hotkeys to open up editing, because I have them on number keys 6 and 9 on my number pad, but OBS's default for one of its commands was on that number pad, and occasionally it picks it up even though it's not supposed to because I changed that hotkey. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of finish up talking about what I did finish up talking about to the open air, and then we're going to let go. Generally, I don't like editing video because I can't guarantee that it's raw if I'm editing, but now that I know how to edit video, maybe I'll start doing things like putting in a general intro or something like that. I haven't decided yet, but anyway. So where the video cut off, I believe I was talking about why using ammo is important. And the reason that using ammo is important is because it prevents decay. If your weapon isn't using ammo, it's decaying faster. And so what that means is when you're TTing the shrapnel, that's offsetting that cost of decay. When you're not, if you decide not to TT the shrapnel and you're going to save it, it means you have to deposit more PED. And so just keep that in mind when you are doing your melee hunting, to decide how you're going to utilize your resources. And that's kind of encapsulated the last 5 to 10 minutes of what I had been recording. Sorry about the jump cut. I apologize for that. Not much I can do about it. Hope to see you next time. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Please like, share, and subscribe down below. I really appreciate everyone's support. You all have a wonderful day.